I know that your draft models didn't like what the 49ers did in terms of value. You clarify that by saying, hey, maybe John Lynch is smarter than all of us and he'll be having the last laugh. But in terms of where you pick players, where they were basically universally slotted to go, the 49ers did make an awful lot of reaches. So let me just ask you, do you think John Lynch is a good general manager?
Look, it's very difficult to say that I think that he is. I think if Brock Purdy does not emerge, and I don't know anybody who could expect Mr. Irrelevant to emerge and become the starting franchise quarterback and get a contract like he just did. So a lot of that has to be luck. And if that doesn't happen, John Lynch might be out of a job.
I think everyone's gone. If Brock Purdy didn't happen, I don't know if anyone remains.
So for that simple fact alone, I cannot say that John Lynch is a good general manager. I do not think that he has done exceptionally well in the draft. The clear models do not agree that he's done well. So I think they are going to need a lot of these young players to step up. I think they're a very fragile team as well. They need their starting caliber guys, the guys that are getting paid the most money, that you guys have more of than most other teams because you're such a top heavy roster with some of these key players getting paid a lot of money. You need them to stay healthy. So you need health from the players that are being paid, and you need these young guys to step into prominent roles. You mentioned Robert Saleh. I just want to make sure that I reiterate that fact to your listeners. I think it's going to be a massive upgrade. I know some of your listeners probably don't love the personnel that you have, front to back on your starting 11 defensively, and it is probably the weak link on the roster. That being said, you finally are going to be coached by someone who not only had a ton of success, but I think still was doing a great job coaching his side of the ball in New York for the Jets. I know it seems like, Robert Saleh coming back, tail tucked between his legs. He wasn't a good head coach. I don't necessarily buy that. Robert Saleh goes to the New York Jets, and that last year that he was there, he's not hiring Aaron Rodgers. He's not helping the fact that Aaron Rodgers tears his Achilles, before he even throws a pass attempt for the Jets in the 2023 season. He's not in charge of the fact that the owner wants to bench Aaron Rodgers, and then he refuses to bench Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't control the plays that Aaron Rodgers is getting called into him. That's Aaron Rodgers' handpicked guy that the ownership wanted him to have in terms of his offensive coordinator, Nate Hackett. So you get all these things that are out of Robert Saleh's control. And then Robert Saleh is the scapegoat who gets fired on the way home from London, and they're lost to the Minnesota Vikings in a game where I think that Aaron Rodgers threw like 3 interceptions or maybe 4. So I just think Robert Saleh was the easy guy to blame. But one thing he does know is how to coach the defensive side of the ball. And you're fortunate now that he is back only focusing on the defensive side of the ball. He doesn't have to do head coaching interviews. He doesn't have to worry about the offense or special teams. And so I think he's going to coach up this defense, and you're going to get more out of those guys than they were delivering over the past couple of years when he wasn't there.
Yeah, he can just drown himself in X's and O's again. And there was so much back-end miscommunication for the 49ers. Their secondary was out of place so often in games, especially in the second half of games where games continued to slip away from them. And I don't know if we can, credit halftime adjustments in the other locker room or just a failure to have a healthy enough team to play 4 quarters and a good enough coach to make the fourth quarter adjustments that you need to close out games. Again, the 49ers would have had a monster year if games stopped at halftime last season.
Yeah, they would have. I look at all of these things because to me, the biggest factor that a coach needs when I consult with different offensive coordinators specifically and some head coaches around the NFL, starting out fast to build a lead, to put the other team behind the sticks, to make their offense be the desperate ones in the second half. That's what you're looking to do. And the 49ers did a very good job of actually getting out to leads, playing well. Their efficiency on the first drives of games, generally speaking, was pretty good. They led at halftime in 9 of their games last year. But their issues were they fell apart, especially in the fourth quarter of games. You kind of alluded to it. They scored just 5.2 fourth quarter points on average, which was 28th in the NFL. They were outscored by 4.5 points on average in the fourth quarter of games. That was the biggest margin in the NFL. They basically just blew games in the fourth quarter by not scoring enough, allowing the opponent to come back into games and score too many points. And as a result, the 49ers dropped a lot of games that they theoretically could have won. On a positive side of things, that helped you get the schedule you got heading into this season. On the positive side of things, that got you a little bit more extra draft capital that, whether you squandered it or used it wisely remains to be seen in the 2025 NFL draft. But, looking back, it stunk, right? It wasn't pleasant to go through that last year, but it actually helps you a little bit in 2025 because you guys were just choking away games in the fourth quarter.